So I had originally had this whole idea to shoot this whole video with my JVC DV camera and make it look like a found footage video from like the early 2000s. And then I was like, you know what? I actually remember 2002, and I wasn't really into cameras at that point. It was hard for me to imagine. It was hard for me to get in the headspace to cosplay like it's 2002. I turned 16 that year. I was only into hardcore music. I didn't give a shit about anything else. I just wanted to go to shows and hang out and play music. Photography was far back in my mind. And then if I was acting like I was 39 in 2002, then I would be talking about how my Nikon camera was probably the best thing that you could buy with your money, and how I need to be shooting film because digital's soulless or something. And I wouldn't give a crap. I'd probably be driving a car from the late 60s because currently in 2025 I'm driving a car from 1987. So just minus 20 years. So it was hard for me to think about it, but I filmed a whole talking head segment using my DV camera, so I'm just gonna have it playing in the background. So last year I really fell down the CCD pipeline, and I know there's a whole argument about what sensor is more filmic looking, but honestly, I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think it goes to when the processor was designed and what the intentions were set with the processor. Early digital cameras have a more filmic look, but that's because they were trying to achieve film camera results, which were the gold standard at the time. It's what designers and engineers and all those eggheads were familiar with. Whether a CCD sensor or a CMOS sensor is attached to it, I don't think that makes a ton of difference because it was the results that the people were trying to get to. But because of that, I was still kind of in the sauce at that point. I really wanted a Nikon or something CCD based as a DSLR. So anyway, I found out about the early Nikon cameras were CCD. Then I found out about their Fuji cousins. And I wanted an S2 Pro so bad, I could taste it. And I found one for sale, and when I took a couple pictures with it, it acted a little funny, but it stored a couple photos, and I was like, you know what? I'm leaving with it. I'm so stoked about this. And guess what? It was broken. Imagine that. If you're familiar with Nikons, there's this little aperture lever inside. It couldn't stop down the aperture on any lens. It would move it a little bit, but not enough. I still used it. I was pretty upset. Not upset. I was just maybe I can fix it. A year later, I found a guy and he was selling an S2 Pro and an S3 Pro, but his ad said, I only have one battery tray, so I want to sell them together. So I messaged him and I was like, yo, I have a broken S2 Pro with a good battery tray. Can I buy the S3 Pro off you? So we made a deal and it was perfect. Worked really well. It didn't use two types of batteries. It only uses AA's, which was really cool. I set it to the film sim profile of the one that looks like slide film. I set it to that and I left it at that, and I only shot JPEGs with it. But then I still felt like I was missing out on some type of CCD experience, I had that thought. So I wanted an actual Nikon CCD camera. I found this nice lady and she was selling a pair of D100s on Craigslist, and it was $100 for both of them. There was this one, there's this one, and it's got a little bit of LCD, I forget what they call it, but it's got a little bit of fungus just on the LCD, and it's a thing that afflicts 2000s LCDs. But it's got it on this, it doesn't have it on this. I think her uncle ran a photography business, and that's why he had two of the same camera. But anyway, I was like, dude, sold. Where do you want to meet up? So I bought it from her. I tried it a few times. I shot JPEGs with it. They weren't great, and I was like, this is kind of boring. So I put it on the shelf, and I just used my S3 Pro after that for a while. I just actually kind of forgot about it. So recently around me, the trees started turning colors again, and I decided to try this unloved D100 again. And I shot the images in RAW, which I don't normally do because I hate editing photos. I love shooting JPEGs and getting results right away. I can just put them on my phone and upload them. I'm very lazy when it comes to my photography. To be honest with you, the camera really surprised me with a lot of the raw image stuff. Now looking around online, I found Edward Noble's website, edwardnoble.com, and he says that the camera only has 9.5 stops of dynamic range, which I can believe. And it sounds absolutely caveman-esque in retrospect. but if you expose for the highlights, if you're taking an image and you're trying to figure out I want to shoot the highlights or I want to shoot the shadows, right? You kind of expose leaning more towards the highlights. There is enough data there to kind of bring them back into the middle, you know, like bring the shadows up, bring the highlights down, you can still see the sky. If you shoot just for the shadows, you're never going to get the sky back. You know, that's true in this. My Canons, you know, because they're a lot newer, they have a lot more dynamic range. Hey, so guess who just shot a whole video and started editing it and realized he hadn't actually talked about the camera that much and just talked about my experience with it. So the D100, if you care about specs a whole lot, it's a 6 megapixel camera. It's not stacked, so it's not a super CCD like the Fujifilm stuff. It'll do anywhere from 32nd to 1/4000 shutter speed. The ISO starts at 200 and goes to 1600. It is expandable to, I guess, 3200 and 6400, but it looks so terrible. I would never use it. It's, you know, APS-C sensor because it was in the early days. Nobody had a full frame really, unless you were just using film. So if you shoot burst with this, it'll do 3 frames per second. Not great by today's standards, but you know, it's also not like FM3A speed or whatever. The white balance has like 6 presets, you know, like the normal daytime, shadow, tungsten, all that, and then, you know, you can preset it, and it's super difficult to preset it yourself. The menu system kind of looks like buns. It doesn't look great like a normal menu system. It is compatible with manual lenses, but it does not have an aperture arm in it. Well, it doesn't have like the aperture lever like a D2X or something. So if you put a manual lens on there, you have to manually expose. Like, what really got me was the way that, like, just the colors are processed on this, and the way they just look really good. Like, I can take an image with my 5D4 and I can get some good results. I can take an image with this, and even though it's a lot older, I get the results that I'm looking for. I have a specific look I really like, which is like forum posts from the 2000s, like car forum posts from the 2000s. This isn't really a how-to video. Like, the camera is really frustrating to use. Like, if I went from using my Nikon X to this directly, I'd have been pissed. Like, it's slow. It feels a little clunky, you know, like if you set it to autofocus, you'll miss shots sometimes. But then sometimes everything will just line up. It'll work perfectly and you just be super happy with it. So with this camera, right, if you set it to aperture priority, it will sometimes set the shutter speed so low that everything will be blurry. So I usually set it to shutter priority unless it's bright outside, and then I'll set it to aperture priority. So I have it set to shutter priority, and I think my last setting is, you know, 150. I'm gonna shoot at my ceiling. I'm gonna turn this on and hold the button down. Yeah, like in 2002, that would have made me pissed. Like if I had a film camera, because the film camera, I'm not waiting for it to make a decision. You know, you make the decision with the Nikon X because it's a full manual camera. For this, you know, like it works a lot better if you bring it up, but sometimes it'll still kind of take forever to take a picture. That being said, if you leave this to like ISO 800 or lower, it works really well. 1600 is still usable. The high settings are god awful and just don't use them. But if you want me to make like a how-to on how to use this, let me know and I can do that. Yeah, here's some examples and maybe a little talking while I'm out. I don't normally take photos at cemeteries, but there's this tree at a cemetery by my house that the leaves turn insanely. I look at it every day when I'm driving. If I go out for a drive somewhere, I look at this tree. That's why this photo's in here. So I went somewhere, I parked, and I saw these trees, right? They're at the gas station by my house. I don't know if you're even going to be able to hear me because of all the background noise, but I found this really sick underpass when I went to go stop at this train station instead. So I took a bunch of pictures here. So we'll see what the camera got. So anyway, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you could leave me a comment, maybe like the video or share it with a couple of people, that would be really sick, dude. I like doing this and I like talking, so I figure I'm just gonna keep talking about stuff anyway. If you want to give me suggestions, give me something else you might want me to talk about, let me know. I was kind of thinking about trying to do a CCD sensor shootout where I compare the D100 to the S3 Pro because it works. Let me know if that's a good idea or something you'd be interested in. If not, like I have, of course, like everybody is still talking about the Canon 5D Classic, and I have one of those I could also talk about too. That thing is a tank. I'd actually thought about talking about my Nikon D2X as well. I don't use it that often, but now that I know that like Nikons don't really shine in their JPEGs, but more so in their RAW files, I'm gonna give all of my Nikon stuff another chance again before I decide to do something else with it. Anyway, thanks for watching. It was just, it was interesting. It was fun for me to do today.